Hello, everybody. My name is Rattan-Jauhal, and today I am super excited to be on Math PD. My presentation is going to be called My TLC Experience. I unfortunately have a cough today, so I will be sipping on green tea while I'm sharing my presentation. So just bear with me. So again, my name is Rattan-Jauhal, and my Twitter handler is at @sjohal. If you want to ever DM me, and if you have any questions. So I'm going to start off with what is a TLC? A TLC stands for Teacher Learning Co-op. So first thing is you have to select a team of teachers, pick a research topic, create a product, and test the results. And after you finalize the details of your project, you submit a proposal to Ontario Federation of Teachers. Now, this would go under the Teacher Learning Co-op. Now, if your proposal gets chosen, you get up to $4,000, and your topics can range from kindergarten, technology, math, mental health, and the list continues. As a team lead, so this year when I got chosen to be a TLC lead, my responsibility was to track expenses and write our final project report. So those are some of the responsibilities that a TLC lead would have. Moving on to the next slide, which is research project. So on my team, I had about 4 teachers. I had 3 grade 4 teachers and 1 grade 2 teacher. And our research project was based on teaching geometry through the coding language, Scratch. So our $4,000 budget was allotted to teacher release days, a coding workshop, and other resources. Sorry, don't mind me. I normally don't sound like this. I just have a cold. But the good thing with Mad PD is you won't catch my cold because you are sitting behind your screen. That's another awesome thing about having online teacher PD. Moving on to my next slide. So some of our teacher professional goals were, mine were, and my team's was to build teacher capacity with coding using the Ontario expectations, expand student thinking for the 24th century and beyond, and develop lessons around growth mindset, problem solving, and modeling that in the classroom. Also, to continue to develop a deeper understanding of how to integrate technology in the classroom to expand student learning. So those were some of our teacher professional goals. Now, this would be a typical example of a release day that I had planned for my teachers. So this is just one release day. So our school starts at 8:30, ends at 2:40. And so this was release day number 2. So 8:30 to 9:30, I send my team in to their classrooms and I have them conduct a small group instruction with 5 students around our coding task. From there, they complete a formative assessment using the success criteria that we co-constructed on day 1 based on our baseline. Then once they're done, they come in. So around 10 to 10:40, we moderate the formative assessments from our morning block. Then around 11 o'clock to 11:30, I always have a share. So for this release day, I had my primary teacher, Michelle, share her primary coding with math project. And then near the end, I created a Google Doc for my team. I always give them time during the release day to share some notes, pictures, links, websites, or any other resources they find would be helpful to share in this Google Doc. Because all of this, again, as a TLC lead, I'm going to use to write our final report. So I'm making sure that as the TLC project is moving along, that we are storing all of our data, or all this important information. So this is an example of a typical Google Doc template that I created for my team, beginning with professional goals, additional resource activities, unexpected challenges, things that enhance student learning and development. Also, how do you plan on sharing your learning? Because with this TLC project, it's all about building teacher capacity around technology and math And so how I want to know from my team members, how are they going to share this learning with others? So for me, I'm sharing it with all of you on Mad PD, on all of our learning that we did through our TLC, and then also any additional information. Now, these headings are directly from the Ontario Federation of Teachers website, and I thought it'd be a good idea to get these headings out from the get-go so my teachers know what to expect in terms of reporting. My next slide is on resources and equipment. Now, when you're coding, you definitely need computers, you need devices. So one thing that I had to tackle as a team lead and as a technology lead at my school was to increase student access to technology in the classroom. So, as a teacher, I went online thinking, okay, where do I go to look for devices for computers? I stumbled upon www.rcto.ca, and basically RCT stands for Renewed Computer Technology. And what you do is you fill out a form, and if you get accepted, they send and if they have the computers, they will send your school free desktops. If you want a laptop, there's an additional charge for that, but we just wanted desktops. So each of my teachers got 4 free desktops for their small group coding instruction. I also contacted Andrew Doby, who works a lot with RCT. I've added his Twitter handler if you're interested in reaching out to him. I called him to our school to team up with our technology team to start re-imaging the computers for our coding project to make them super fast. So here's an example of some of her computers being re-imaged. And here's a little tweet from Andrew Doby, just kind of showcasing her school on helping the environment and at the same time increasing student access to technology in the classroom. Because remember, these are refurbished computers that would have been sitting in the landfill site, but are now sitting in teacher classrooms ready to be used. I've also copied and pasted his Google site that actually he has a lot of videos on how to re-image computers. So though that it's been very helpful. And to be honest, if I can re-image a computer, you can re-image a computer. So, and Andrew's great. If you ever want to contact him, he's a great guy and he'd love to bring this initiative to your school. So, excuse me as I sip my tea. Training teachers. So basically a lot of my teachers, most of my teachers that were on my team coded before, but still could use a refresher. And so as a team lead, I arranged a lot of coding buddy days where I invited them to my classroom. And we did a lot of team teaching. I also organized a coding workshop with Kids Code Genesis and a great nonprofit organization that came in and did a workshop for my teachers. And they walked us through, what is coding, the history of coding, and basically walked us through Scratch because that was the language that we wanted to use in our particular coding project. So that was a great experience. So our coding with geometry, sorry as I sip on my green tea, our coding with geometry unit focused on identify and create different types of quads. For example, rectangle, square, trapezoid, parallelogram, rhombus, and then they had to get into the geometric properties as well. So that was our junior expectation that we focused on in our coding with geometry unit. I am going to now show you our coding with geometry success criteria. So this was co-constructed from our first release day based on diagnostic assessment. And this is what we came out with as a team. And remember, we're always modeling with the success criteria. So this is, just putting it out there in the universe. Obviously, if you look at this, you might think, oh, I might tweak this or that. Go for it. But this is what we came up with as a team. I can formulate a plan to solve a coding problem. Using the coding key, I can create and read a block of code. I can justify my thinking and use coding or symbol language. I can show my knowledge of math concepts through designing a coding task using coding language. I can select and use the correct coding symbols when coding. I can communicate math and coding thinking through orally, visually using coding and math vocab, such as function. So that was our junior um, success criteria. So on my team, like I mentioned earlier, I had 3 junior teachers and 1 primary. So this was representation from our junior coding team. Now moving on to our primary version of our success criteria. So our primary teacher focused more on spatial sense. So her learning, her expectation was describe and represent the relative locations of objects and represent objects on a map. Her learning goal was to use coding to describe the location of objects on a grid and give directions to them. Her success criteria was as follows. I can formulate a plan to solve a coding problem. I can move the sprite forward, left, and right on a grid. Using coding blocks, I can move the sprite to a specific spot using the coding blocks. I can debug or solve problems as they arise while coding. So that was our primary geometry success criteria with coding. So these are some examples from our project. These are students coding a pen and scratch, drawing some polygons. So I decided to add some images from the project here. Next, we have another image from the coding project, a junior example. This student code examples are from primary, and so what my primary teacher did was first she introduced the idea of moving on the grid by bringing the students to a room with tile floor with visible squares. Had the students practice giving instructions to the teacher robot, so the teacher robot being her, to get the robot from start point on the tile to the finish point on the tile. The teacher robot will do exactly as instructed. So for example, my primary teacher would be the teacher robot and she would get the students to give her instructions. So move 1 square forward, turn right, turn left, move 5 squares forward. So here are added examples of her launching lesson of how she brought coding into her classroom. Okay, moving on. More examples from our primary coding with geometry unit. So Michelle continues to explore and increase comfort using Scratch by using the creative community resource. And here it's located under the For Educators section on the Scratch website, where they actually have the students cut out the instructions and then paste them according to where they would want their object to move on the grid. So before they even dive into Scratch, she has them doing a lot of kinesthetic activities and doing a lot of cutout activities with paper. So getting their feet wet and tapping into the different multiple intelligences. These are more student coding examples from primary. So here she has them start with the remix already created on Scratch. The neat thing with Scratch is if you are new to coding, Scratch already has previous remixes that you could remix to fit your task for your students. So what my primary teacher did was she used the remix called Movement on a Grid by T Cave, and then she remixed it as her summative assessment. And she called it by Gooly Gooly, which I think is really cute. So what she did was she used the knowledge gained in previous subtasks to code the ladybug to move on the grid to capture each of the 3 fruits and then make their way to the finished square on the grid. So that was one of her final summative tasks. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to conclude with some of the coding resources that we used. Our mentor for the RTLC project was Brian Hespinelli. He wrote Codebreaker, and he was phenomenal to work with. He was even able to kind of make some calls while we were meeting as a team. So I thought that was really neat. These are some other coding resources. We used Scratch. We used the Coding Academy. And so, yeah, that was some of our coding resources that we used. But I want to end off saying thank you to Derek and Peter for organizing MadPD. Please continue to follow us on Twitter, learn more about us on Flipgrid. So if you want to check out more presentations, go on to Flipgrid and you can catch the presenters doing a brief intro about their presentation. Check out our um, MadPD Google Doc, which is, I added a link onto my presentation here. If you have more questions on how to apply for TLC or how to get more refurbished computers into your school or into your classroom, if you want to, if you have more questions on organizing coding workshops at your school, please DM me at @Jauhal. I feel like could be a very useful resource. So DM me, and I love to reach out to teachers, and I loved sharing my TLC experience with my fellow teachers because I know that we all want more time to collaborate, to moderate, to assess, and what this grant did for us was give us release time to do all those wonderful things. And the beauty thing is that all my teachers right now are coding, are loving coding, and they would do this all over again in a heartbeat. So again, enjoy rest of the day with Mad PD. Enjoy the next 11 hours or 10 hours of Mad PD online. And thanks for joining me. Bye bye.